Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome everybody to the regular meeting of the board.
Okay.
Roll call.
Okay, I guess I thought I was ready. Got no pencil. You want to try logging out and logging back in? Give me a minute here, guys.
Is it going slow?
I'm not sure.
Well, you're going that way, then, Kevin.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna move on. Try to get that 6:34 whenever you get to
Okay.
it. Dan?
Yeah,
Or get registered to Lauren?
Asked Lauren to come by and just share with you some data for the year, where we are currently in regards to our incidences of COVID. And before she comes up, I don't think I have to tell you, I'm sure you already know this, she has been tremendous. Her and Kayla worked very well, and she has really been key in trying to keep us up to date. The communication piece alone of Lauren's job this year is full-time, not to mention that of her normal job. So much appreciated. And Lauren, I'll let you just go ahead. You're going to have to come up in the front. We're not going to sit back in the corner.
Where do I go?
Right up there where we can all see you. Boom!
Get through the camera.
I was gonna say, where's the camera? I'm gonna miss that.
Now you're blinded.
I know.
That's fine.
Okay. Well, first of all, I would say thank you to everybody too, because it's not just been me, it's been communicating with the principals and everybody. They're all tired of hearing from me. Sherry from the health department's been wonderful, so it's just been a team effort all the way around. But, so I just went through to try to recap some where we've been since the beginning of the year. So we started September 21st was our first student quarantine case. That was our first intro into this. And our first positive case was a student on September 30th. So that's what kicked it all off. And then to date, I looked back, total quarantine altogether, staff and students, we've had about 440 individuals over that time span we've been quarantined. Some of them have been different quarantines a couple times, same individual. Positive COVID cases. So for our students, historically, we've had 20, current is 12. At the high school, 3, at the elementary and middle school, 9. Staff-wise, historically, we've had 11 cases, current 3, and they're at the elementary school. Current quarantine, altogether, 88 students now. That has probably changed in the last 5 minutes because it's ever changing, but that was the number as of noon today. But I know there have been a couple of cases since then we're working on. And there's currently 7 staff that are quarantined, but I think there might be a couple more from recent cases. So, and also we've done really well as far as no in-school transmission up until our last case in the 3rd grade. We have another positive case there. So there's 3 in that class total now. So we're looking at probably is transmission actually in that classroom. They all sit at the same table. But that class is remote. I've talked with Sherry in the health department, and since that class is remote, we quarantined the students that needed to be, and those are the ones that have now tested positive that we've done our part here for that. So that's what I had down. I was going to open up any questions you guys have, any concerns, things we could do differently. I think you're doing a great job. We're doing the best we can. Our teachers, everybody's done really well. I mean, I don't know what we could do differently to make it better.
No, I don't either. I think you're going amazing. It's a screw up every day. It's another nightmare. I don't know how you keep track of what you do.
It's ever changing. That's what, I was writing these down and I had sent them to Mr. Luckinwell earlier and then before our meeting that changed again, so.
Well, I sent my email out the other day, because I think I didn't send, but then it had already changed.
He had sent that and I read it and I called him right away and said, well, that's not right anymore.
It's been awesome. If you look at the total number of quarantine versus what we think may have been contracted at school, and that percentage is really excellent. That's tribute to our staff and all the things we put in place, whether it's plexiglass dividers, shields, masks, working.
I agree. You guys done a great job.
Lauren, is there anything that you can comment on? And if there's not, it's okay to say no. I guess quite frankly, I get a little irritated sometimes when we come under attack because we are in school.
Yeah.
Right? And I've oftentimes made the statement based on some general data that the risk associated with kids not being in school are oftentimes far greater than being here. And I know that you really help facilitate the SOS training. Anything you want to say as a result of kind of completing that process? Any general observations about that?
I think the SOS training went very well. I'm glad we were able to do that. We benefited, we got some students into counseling. I think we taught some students that maybe otherwise we would not have. So I think that was very beneficial. A lot of kids are struggling at home, a lot of changes for them. They don't have the support we have for them here. So, I mean, I would agree that I think being here is the best place for them.
What kind of reaction did you see going through SOS this time in the COVID world compared to when we did it previously? Did you see a large increase of students in need?
There was kind of a difference in concerns. We reached out to the whole school, so it made the numbers larger than just a couple of classes like we normally had done. So we did see more numbers. There were some students we talked to who over the summer had were in counseling and kind of followed up with them from that said that everything kind of was affecting them. So I think it was good.
Can you share what the SOS stands for?
Signs of suicide. Yeah, signs of
And then
suicide program.
share that with me that, it's the highest rate right now in teenagers that it's ever been.
Yeah.
And I was on legal aid training today and what I'm going to see that. So I shared that information that you guys have shared with us. And
Yeah.
I said, it's just phenomenal. The people and everything. Yeah, I said, well, that carries right over into he's talking about emotional, mental health, and emotional needs. So they carry right into the people that can't work. And maybe worse on the kids are not being able to feed their family, it just carries all the way through. It's just crazy. It's phenomenal how to reach out to kids. It's easier to identify, or do it feel like they're helpful enough to come to you, or how do you?
It's nice with the program because they are able to fill out a questionnaire, it's on paper, so then we pull them in and talk to them, they don't actually have to come forward themselves, because they can do it via that interview, and then we can, last night they can write it down and we can put off separately instead of announcing it in class.
That's good.
I think that's nice. And
Yeah.
so, there are a lot of kids that even come up, they don't want to say they're sick because they don't want that have to work. There's a lot of stress, and you feel bad because, in years past, I didn't sit kids home for everything. I was pretty much, you don't sit at school unless you have fever, you're puking. Unfortunately, we can't do that now. So I know it's a strain on them and a lot of hard phone calls today, but I just try to keep everybody safe. So sometimes they sit with me for a little while, but it
Now, are you going to be able to get healthcare workers, you will be able to get vaccine one of the first ones?
The health department actually called me this week. They are going to start being able to give them. I'm just gonna be honest about it. They offered, they said I could come in before Christmas and get it if I wanted, because I'm a frontline worker. But just me personally, I declined it this time. I just kind of want to wait and see. And if there's somebody else out there who needs it worse than me, give that.
If I kill over orange, then they don't get it, because I'm number one in line, and I'm taking it.
And I mean, I'm not saying I'm for or against it, I just for myself right now, I'm gonna wait and see. see what happens. But they are starting to offer it, so I was glad to hear that. The health department was reaching out. They reached out to you guys.
Yeah, I think we're scheduled for next Wednesday.
So all the front line from here should be getting it, and it'll be then dispersed out from there. So, I don't know.
So Ed, you one of those people can't commit to enough, because you gotta see it around it every day. That's phenomenal, what the work that you're doing. It's amazing.
You know, look at this, probably got it.
I had it up good for my day.
Lauren, thank you.
Later.
Yes, thank you. Any other questions?
I don't know, I was thinking about something today, you know, I don't know if you get the things from Sean Ray. Everything is COVID, they'll forget about all the other problems that we actually got. I don't know if people in here, but the drug problem is bigger now than it's ever been in months. But you don't hear nothing about it because everybody's worried about COVID.
And no one talks about mental health.
And it's all,
That's a lot of our students, they still have the same issues they've had throughout the rest of the year, so.
It's
exacerbated at this point.
Yes.
Ed, how many runs do you make, say, in a month that are drug related?
drug related, it
Like
varies.
overdoses and, yeah.
This month it's gonna be really high. I'm gonna say, me personally, just on my shift, probably 20.
20?
Yeah,
In a month?
And that's just your shift.
that's just my shift. That's only a third of the time.
All right. Thank you, Lauren. Great
Thank you,
job.
Lauren.
Thanks for everything you do.
Yeah. Main room is good, back room also.
Yeah.
I asked each of the principals just kind of come in and give you any updates. What they're juggling on a daily basis is just crazy, and I mentioned it to you before. The COVID is one thing, the course changes that we've added, and how we have to offer those, and all the things that go with covering classes. You know, we still have normal absences, not to mention those that are COVID related. So, great job keeping as many kids in school. Our kids are still enjoying a lot of opportunities they've never had before. So I'll turn it over to Chad first, kind of give you an update of the elementary, then we'll get to the high school.
I'm gonna try and just show you some statistics and things that I got to share with you. We got our third grade reading scores back for fall. I've got some trend data to show you on third grade reading. I've got some really good data to show you. Unfortunately, it's more like an autopsy report though, because we are just now, I don't know if you guys know, but the K3 reading indicator is determined usually whenever you give the diagnostic test at the beginning of the year. So we are just now, the scores that we have are from October of last school year. And we get them. So I'm going to show you some things that are here. This is just, let me get out of this here. I kind of, just want to be able to share some things. So, we are STEM designated, and we've talked about this a lot. And COVID, if anything, we're doing amazing things, but we got to make sure that we have that foundation, and I think that's reading, especially. So this is the great news. If you look at this, and again, this is based on this is pre-COVID data. But when you look at our and this is based on diagnostic scores, all the districts in the High Valley ESC, there are 19 elementary schools that are served, where we have the #1 scores on the diagnostic. But again, this is pre-COVID. You can see overall on track is 80%, which I'll be honest, I've never seen a school have 80%. You can see this is our incoming kindergartners, and then this is the beginning of first grade. Okay, but you can see this is where we start to have some issues. And I've got another document I'm gonna show you that's on the third grade, that's on our, but you can see, looking at here, Fort Fry's up here, Switzerland. And really, if you look here, we had the highest kindergarten. I believe we had the highest first grade. We had the second highest, second highest third grade. Okay? So, but again, this is data from the beginning of last year, not even this year. And we'll get that data whenever. Part of this slide didn't move. Let's see. No, maybe I'm not going to show you anything.
Is this new?
You could have stopped there. and moved it
I guess, I should have.
Tell her.
Let's see if it'll let me see this. So, yeah, I have this one to show. All right. So my next slides are off of ODE's website, actually. You can't see it for some reason. It will not show. My tiny little slide over here is, I don't know, but this slide here is breaking it down by grade. And what this is showing, it's like, how in the world? I don't know, it doesn't like that slide for some reason. And it's not even putting it over here. It must not like it, but let me just go on ODE's website here.
There it is. Everything is up. It's up.
All right,
No.
so what this data is, this is year 1, year 2, year 3. This is the number of kids who were on a reading improvement plan. You give the diagnostic at the beginning of the year, you determine who is not on track, and you can put them on an improvement plan. So what this is just looking at, this isn't the whole grade level. This is just the kids that are on an improvement plan. So the end of year 1, which would be from kindergarten to first grade, 75% of those kids that started kindergarten on a reading improvement plan, a RIM, not to be, don't confuse it with a PIMP, but a RIM is 75% of those kids came off. Year 2 is kind of concerning. This is from the beginning of first grade to the beginning of second grade. 100% of our kids stayed on a RIM. Okay, so we're losing ground in first grade. And then year 3, doesn't look a whole lot better right now. So that's something we're going to work on.
We're comparing the same kids, right?
Yeah, and these are the kids that are just that were off track. And I will say it does get harder as you get fewer and fewer kids. It should get harder because you're getting into your more intensive kids. But still to not pick up any kids during our first grade years, we gotta do some things. And I think our reading plan, some of the things we're doing is going to address some of these things. So again, this is percentage on track.
So let me interrupt Chad and just say, this is the first time that I can remember that we've pushed at all of our grade levels for more consistency of instruction. So I would fully expect he's going to show you some data that really says that data hasn't changed much over a 6, 7, 8 year period. This fall is the first time through that literacy plan that we're pushing consistency of best practices. Go ahead.
Yeah, and and that's the thing, and I've got to keep working on some of those things too. But so here's kindergarten diagnostic. 94.5% of our kids were considered on track. So first grade 91.4, second grade 62.9, third grade 71.1. So we're, that's looking at percentage. That's all of our kids. So only 5. The difference. You can see here again when we get to second grade. Because that's what this is looking at. Second grade diagnostic is really a snapshot of what happened in first grade. And so that's how you want to look at that. And again, I call these autopsy reports because OD has this data posted on their website, and this is what determines our local report card. I want to pull up another. Sorry, I was trying to get all this in one place, and it wasn't being very friendly. So this is our third grade reading data from fall, not our, I'm just looking at fall. And if you look at this, COVID, pre-COVID, nothing's changed a whole lot. From 2017, we were at 26%, 18, 27%. Last year was 29%, and this year we're at 26%.
Of what, being on track?
No, this is third grade. This is the number of kids who passed the third grade reading already. We take it in October.
Yeah.
And we just got these results back Wednesday for 2020. So that you can see there's just the only thing we said, and we were talking about this, the only thing we can't speculate, but what would this number be without preschool and some of those things? We don't know. But so that's our trend data. What I want to do and what we're going to do on January 4th, I'm going to show you another. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around here, but I went through, and we're going to work through this. And really, I'm looking at this as K2. This is third grade, but kindergarten through second grade is what we're measuring. Okay, I think an attainable goal is to have 50 to 60% of our kids pass the third grade reading test in October. So that means we got to change what we're doing in kindergarten through second grade. Now, the great thing is, these are the indicators, and this is that Ohio does release this. This is last year. What I did over the last couple of days, I just went through and color coded. These are the same standards, how many times they're tested. So what we're going to do January 4th as a second grade team, we're going to sit down, look at our data. We're going to look at our standards. We're going to look at where our kids are performing well in. And then we're going to, and then we're going to kind of back up and, what do we want to do between now and the end of second grade? What, even down to first grade, what does my standard look like that supports this? So we make that part of our plan moving forward. And so what I did too, so this is actually 2019, this is 2020. And all the colors I tried to keep the same on each assessment. And so like the very bottom is writing, there's always a writing portion. And they're usually 3 2-point questions. This is kind of good when I look at this. We had 32% of our kids score 2 points, and actually 82%. There is some highlights in here. Some of these questions are 1-point questions, but I bolded the ones that were 2 points because, again, if we want to improve these scores, we can drill down and look at, these should be our power indicators and what we're covering. And I want to back up too. I'm not a big proponent for state test scores, but, if we're going to focus on some standards, these are the ones we should focus on. And if we do, we can't do this without just teaching to a test. So anyway, that's part of what we're looking at, and what we're going to continue to work on over the next couple of weeks, and get ready for the end of the school year. A couple other things, just talking, Dana mentioned about schedule and how we change it. I really hope that we're going to plan next year to be able to offer the options and things for our kids. And, they want it. I'm going to show you a survey that I put out to kids. I've gotten 37 responses. Well, 35 actually, because 2 kids decided to take it twice. But this is interesting. I asked our kids, because we're thinking about schedule. How do you like our schedule? What would you change? So our current 8th graders, their biggest concern is they'd love to have a locker and a place to put their stuff. But they love coming up here. But this one is what surprised me. I really didn't know what this would be. But I asked, we have a schedule where you see half your classes each day. Do you like the current schedule and would you keep it the same? Overwhelmingly, 73% of them, so far out of 35 responses, have said yes. The next one would be a 5-day-a-week class schedule, but when I've talked to kids, they like the time. Just moving forward, if we're going to engage our kids, I think it's important that we do what our kids want too. I mean, yeah, we want it to be work manageable for our staff, but, we've got to adapt to some of these things because of COVID. We may have put this A/B schedule in place because of COVID, but, our kids are telling us they love it, really. So that's what we're working on. Our goal is to have course selections by the end of January, unless we're only here 4 days or something, but even then we can do it remote. And so we want to do that, and then by March 1st, we want to have our schedule finished. And again, we're going to try and build it so our kids have opportunities. And I've been thinking about this. If we are still dealing with COVID and we've got to do some restrictions, we can maybe go to, you're going to have an elective. If we were blocked, you're going to have that elective, and you'll have that block for 9 weeks, 80 minutes. That elective teacher is going to be able to go really deep, especially if it's a STEM class, a coding, robotics, something like that. The one thing I've told teachers is, like, if you want to take kids to the farm, or you want to take kids into the land lab, it's hard to do that on a 42-minute period and truly get something out of it. So, I don't know if we'll stick with a complete A/B schedule, or if it could be a modified block where we'll see our kids, 2 or 3 days, and then maybe we'll have a couple of days of block, but something like that. So that's everything we're working on. I think we got about, I don't know what Lauren said, if she shared this. We did have about 80 kids that have chosen to go remote. That's not counting the ones that are forced right now because of quarantine. She just texted me after she talked. I don't know if her numbers were the one class. She texted me like 20 minutes ago about, and that's really probably the first kids that we've seen that have been sick that sat at the same table. But the one kid she texted me, her brother's on my basketball team, and I know he's been already quarantined. His mom was getting tested, so there's a possibility, or who knows, maybe she brought, I don't know. So that's what we're working on. I think we're doing fantastic with things. It's still stressful. The work completion is challenging, but if you've seen, I mentioned that show the other night, but that's across the country. These kids are, we're putting them in a college type setting where you're responsible for your own work and your own schedule. And so probably in the long run, it's going to be a good experience for them, but some of them are really struggling right now. And that's,
Well, thanks. And, I think for the time I've been here, that's the first time that we met earlier this week that we saw that depth of data. And quite frankly, if you get into deeper to teacher level data, there's probably even fewer surprises. Lots of calls for celebration. Also lots of work to do, but there's no greater work than consistency from one classroom to the next. The fact that we have, 4 sections in a given class, we don't necessarily assess kids at the same time, we don't necessarily use the same assessment. We're not taking advantage of the collaboration opportunities that we have. So many of our other teachers starting in middle school work in isolation. there's great collaboration opportunities at a grade level with 3 or 4 teachers, and we're just not flat not using it. And we know, you can see, when you look at the classroom level data, you can see who consistently has high numbers. There's a clear 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got to be able to share the best practices and try to replicate that. Chad and Chrissy obviously working a lot with our special needs. I think they're really suited well to oversee that. And as I told Chad the other day, to be a STEM designated school district and want to prepare kids for future pathways that are all going to be STEM related, we have to do a better job with literacy. And I've kind of said, hey, align yourself there. Let's really focus our efforts and attention and support. Brad from the ESC is doing a nice job working with Chad and Chrissy. So I feel like we have a good plan.
A little plug for Brad. I should have had a reference. That's terrible. I mean, I'm working with my doctorate and I didn't cite my reference, but Brad shared a lot of that data with us because I'll be honest, he's like, hey, you guys are number one. I'm like, why did I see this? Okay, because I mean, but when he's after you show where he's getting the data, but the biggest thing is what Dan said is consistency. Everybody is doing what they feel is best, but you can't when you got it all over the place, you don't know, you can't really pinpoint what's really working and what's not. So what we did last week is we did with kindergarten, hey, in reading, the first step is phonological awareness. That's being able to manipulate sounds without letters. Once you have the phonological awareness, then you add the phonemic, where you take that letter and you match it with the sound. If you can't do the phonological awareness, though, it makes it very difficult to do the phonics piece. So we went through, we did some walkthroughs with our kindergarten, and it was just a checklist to get in, and it was kind of what we expected. We saw 4 different classrooms and 4 different things doing the exact same program. And, again, nothing wrong with what was going on, but just that consistency so that if Constance and I are kindergarten teachers and I'm teaching them how to segment words and I'm using these hand motions or whatever, and she's using a completely different set of hand motions when they get to first grade, and we're using another set of hand motions, you lose, because again, you put in the kinesthetic piece. So we just got to be consistent using the same phrasing, and doing some things like that. So we tighten up what we're doing and so it's exciting, but we've got a lot of work to do, but hopefully we get out of this COVID deal and it makes it a little easier to get together.
So that looks like, from the data and everything, you guys have to take the stands out to where we need to go.
Yeah, I hope. I mean, I really do. And, and this is what's crazy when you think reading and college entrance, the hardest test, because there are no accommodations or anything, but if you look at some of the research, and this is one of the biggest drawbacks to getting into the armed forces anymore, is the reading assessment. That reading assessment is one of the most, because of the technical jargon and things that they get into to see if the kid can read it, because, I don't want to put him in an M1 tank if he can't read the instructions, he can't read the manual. And so a lot of kids, I would say it's like 35% of the kids who get denied from the armed services because they can't pass the reading assessment. So it's important all the way. STEM, it doesn't matter what you want to do.
Justin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you guys.
Thank you.
Well, I wasn't necessarily expecting to go up front. I don't have anything for you to cast or anything like that. I just give you a few things that are happening within the building. CCP night was last night. Beth did that virtually last night, and truly she did a great job. Zane State and Washington State chimed in with a feed, and we're part of it. And that's our main 2 partners, obviously, and I thought that was really cool. So for being the first time we ever did that completely remotely, I thought she did a really good job. Very important for kids to take the AccuPlacer and to understand the dangers of failing a course. I mean, it was just really good. But and they also have to turn in their paper like their intent to participate in CCT. Even if, and I feel like they should do that anyway. Even if you take the AccuPlacer and don't pass, or turn that paper in and you choose not to do that, you should be proactively thinking that's where we're going. So she did a really good job. Emma has all the scholarships that are current and up to date and on the website, so kids can go pull those down, fill those out. So scholarships are up. There's a lot of money to be had there. Open campus exams begin tomorrow, hopefully. If not, they'll be Monday, Tuesday. I'd like them to be Friday, Monday with a Tuesday makeup and tidy things up and put a bow on it to get out of here. But it may have to, it may not be that way. And we're going to run that as open campus. You need to be here when you have a test. So that tends to hurt a little bit as we, progressively get to Tuesday. There's less people here, which I think that's a good call. I brought my remote learning contract for January. We can talk a little bit about what that looks like if you want to. How we kind of broke this down. Beth, Emma, and I sat down and put this together. We sent it to the staff. They had till the 9th of December to kind of shoot holes in it and give us feedback. And then the 11th, we turned that into March, and we kind of went through that again and tidied that back up. And we feel like we got a good document to start January 4 with. We'd like, obviously right now, we're kind of in our mindset, we're thinking about post-COVID as much as we are current situation. Because, you're still going to run into those situations where somebody could be quarantined tonight and they need it tomorrow, and we just know they need it until they need it. But post-COVID, we need to think about, people choosing this option. Why are you doing that? Why is this the best option for you? I mean, there's certain kids within the building. There's one guy that had to have a surgery. He knew he was going to be out for some time. Perfect reason to be that. There's no, and not be out a long time without any instruction. So we do have a remote learning contract here. And let's see. We also had an attendance breakthrough. I told Dan I'm kind of ashamed that it took us till like December 14th to make sure the attendance. We've been using a Google Doc because the way Dazzle communicates the No Marisa, it was just a real struggle. So we were marking kids in a Google Doc daily with present or absent. You could be present like Kevin's present, and it works. And what we did works. But we did figure out. I called No Marisa, and we got figured out how to make second period, well, even day, second period really homeroom. So I made second period also a homeroom. That way, that information goes to Jill, and she can put that call out that, hey, your kid didn't come to school today, and they're not halfway to Myrtle Beach before we figure out where they're at. Because that's truly, in this weird situation, awesome. So they have been helpful in getting that done. Beth received a $45,000 grant through the Ohio Farm Bureau Foundation. We'll use some of that money, obviously on the farm, with some camera systems and GoPro and that type of thing. And then also we're going to offer Lean Six Sigma training to staff and students. They'll eventually be able to get their yellow belt, and then it goes to green belt, as I'm kind of learning more about this stuff. Do you guys do that at all? I just want to.
Well, ours is more hard. Ours, like we just went through that red, yellow, green, and black. Thanks.
Is everybody familiar with what it is? It's all about operational efficiency.
Operational efficiency, eliminating mistakes and waste.
Manufacturers in Guernsey County, one that I can think of, spent $8-9 million in training all their employees and staff in Lean Six Sigma. And it's going to be great. There'll be a lot of opportunities. Plus, it stacks up to be a nice graduation credential.
Yeah, you can get a 12 and you're good, right?
Plus, you have OSHA 10.
Lean Six is Dr. Deming, and he saved Toyota when all the Japanese car he went to Japan. Everybody turned him away in the United States. he went to Japan and Mr. Toyota took him up, and that's what saved Toyota and why they came out to where they are. And, but it's a problem-solving process. You can apply it to educational issues as well, and it's really cool.
I asked Brad to kind of give me an example, like a common example schools, so I can share with the staff, because I'm not well versed in that. And he said one problem that a school came up with and used, and I thought of ourselves in this one, is pick up at the end of the day, how to streamline. That was the problem that group wanted to solve and make better. I thought, well, yeah, we tackled that ourselves. So everybody could kind of get, efficiency study that and make that better. So there's what we think they can do. Emma did all makeup air testing. She did about 30 tests. Only 10 of those were retakes. We're sitting in a really good spot. I told you at one board meeting, maybe last one, I don't remember.
Yeah.
And we had four kids that were kind of in peril right now. So that's it. The seniors. The reason there was 30 is kind of a neat reason. The other 20 kids are kids that are on CCP and they're taking Comp 1, Comp 2, American Literature. So they didn't necessarily take English 10 to take the test. So they've kind of fast-tracked themselves and they still need to take that test because it didn't happen last week. Does that make sense? So they're actually, we expect their scores to be really good. They got 2 college classes under their belt. So that's why those were there. Our Parley team qualified for state competition. I don't know if you knew that or not. They took the test portion, because it doesn't look like the normal year of Parley team stuff, if that makes any sense to you, because they're virtual, some of it. They scored 5th in the state today on just the testing part. So they have a really, really good chance of scoring out very, very well. So they're
What team?
Parley, parliamentary procedure. Yeah. Let's see. Some of this is my did you know stuff for Jeffrey. And kgp.tv/ZEPS. All the live streams are free. We did not me or us, but 30 food baskets from the farm to family went out. We saw that kind of on the internet, some of those folks and things like that. So 30 of those, 24 more food baskets, gift baskets were delivered. Not quite yet, we're not quite done with them, but they're going out also with the help of NLSD, the National Honor Society, and a Secret Santa. And that's what Guy asked me about just a little bit ago. That's what we were just, she said, Guy's gonna ask you this.
Thank you.
Yeah, but our Secret Santa has basically helping out with some of those baskets, gonna try to put a board game or puzzle in those baskets, something age appropriate to that family. And then we've also done multiple shoes, boots, and coats throughout the district. And the only direction I get is there's more money, hurry up and spend it. So, okay, that's amazing what's going on there. 10th graders, plumbers and pipe fitters are coming on January 6th to kind of start the next cohort of the plumber and pipe fitter apprenticeship program. So we're scheduled for January 6th on that.
COVID been
How many?
Yeah, you could cluster.
How many kids will be taking? We had 4 in the original cohort, we got 2 in the second, they accepted 4, but only 2 did it. So hopefully we can get back up to 4, another 4. The Fab Lab, here's a cool, did you know? Jarvis in the Fab Lab said, I said, how much money have you made just in Christmas? Because he is cranking stuff, it's crazy. He said he's north of $1,500 just in Christmas. I thought, those kids, and it's amazing what all this goes on.
Yeah, we've done some neat stuff.
I tell you what, the shop we made them marble games, put the marble games, and everybody's playing now, I think we made a win.
So that's what I got. Any questions or?
Fantastic.
What's going on?
Yeah, it's really busy.
Good job.
The one thing I can really say about the high school, I really appreciate it. They've not taken a step back during COVID. They've actually continued to take strides forward. And we could go through a whole list, but it's the direction we need to head. We're going to talk a little bit later, but more and more of our own kids continue to choose us, and it has a an amazing return on investment.
We only had 10 new students, as kids start to think about scheduling, and Mid-East 10. That's it. They're choosing to stay here.
But that's probably a specialized thing like mine.
Sure.
What the public complaint is, just briefly touch on what the qualifications are for that. Just, you have to apply at a certain grade.
They apply, there's 2 rounds, they do some mock interviews, then they have an interview process, but our Job and Family Services put them through kind of the paces to begin with, and prep them for the interviews. That's when I took them to lunch last year, and then they also have a math test, and for life of me, I can't think of the name of that math test that they have to take, but it's more of a practical. It's not out, necessarily algebra, or if there's a
Like a math group.
Sure.
Yeah.
I would honestly tell you, I evaluated Randy the other day, and he was a manufacturer. They were using a caliper and calculating, and it was crazy how good they were. I'm telling, we're not going to have a problem because of the things we're doing here to prep for stuff like that. Like, that's not my world, but that was really, really good. And he had remote kids in that class as well. And the program, whoever built that program probably got a lot of money. I mean, it was really user friendly. Like, they had an online caliper, and they had different objects to measure. And it was ridiculous how good that was. So that they didn't miss anything by being in the stream versus being here. It was good.
Yeah, before we go on, and Justin's still here, I don't think that people know, I don't think they know that the necessary changes had to be made here to accommodate multiple worlds happening simultaneously. Our staff has made unbelievable sacrifice, but quite frankly, very little time to do it and to make that change. And it's been, in a typical school year, if you wanted to make the changes that we've made just in a month or two, it would have taken 3 or 4 years to adequately support and plan for that. And it's just amazing. And Chad's already left, but I just hope our folks know how much we appreciate it, because I don't think, one of the biggest things that happens in education is people drive by and the school doesn't look any different than they went there. So they just say, you went to your, it is completely, it's 180 degrees different. And it's so much more. We're not even talking about COVID safety protocols. We're talking about how to use different blocks of time, how to engage learners that are here, learners that are there, and do it simultaneously. Today you're here, tomorrow you're there, and we try to keep moving forward. And we're seeing almost equal to data than when we were completely face-to-face. Crazy good. But that doesn't happen. That does not happen without great sacrifice. So I'm just real appreciative. Are there issues? Are there things we need to get better at? Absolutely. But wow, compared to where we were when we broke last March, our folks are just
Unbelievable.
it's unbelievable.
And my folks have kind of said, Justin, our numbers of remote kids is climbing as we get closer to Christmas. And, yeah, I get it. And no one wants to be quarantined around Christmas, so that's a part of that. But I said to them also, the fact of the matter is, when I go in, you are truly doing a seamless job to where those kids in that class that I just talked about, it didn't matter if you were there or not there. It was quality either way.
Yeah. And so we won't talk a lot about it. I just want to mention, Justin mentioned the remote learning contract. We're trying to be ahead of the game, because let's just face it, when COVID's over, all this won't be put back in the bag. And I had someone ask me the question, are we still going to have to offer remote learning after COVID's over? I said, well, imagine yourself standing in front of your district's families and explaining why, if Johnny's going to be out for 5 days because he broke his leg, why he cannot connect remotely after we've just done it for a year.
Yeah.
How would you, tell me how you would like for me to answer that? And so all of this is not going to go back in the bag. And what we want our folks to know, there's going to be some guidelines though. And it's not just going to be, the Wild West. You're going to have, as a family, you're going to have to agree to do some things. As a student, you're going to have to agree to do some things. As an educator, as a district, there's going to be a lot of things in place. So we want to start putting that out there now. We've talked to our principals about, hey, if there's someone who's chosen remote and they're absolutely floundering, they need to be in school. We have that obligation to try to bring them back. So we're trying to stay ahead of the game. COVID still changes that, and Justin mentioned that. We still can't, deny someone the opportunity of randomly selecting remote on a whim, because quite frankly, the circumstances right now dictate it. But in the future, we're trying to plan for a post-COVID world of what remote learning may or may not look like. But I think we should all acknowledge not all this is going to go back in the bag.
Good plan Tuesday night.
Yeah. It'll make things difficult.
Thanks, Justin. Appreciate it.
All right, moving on, Trenda.
I have our minutes of the last meeting attached for your review and approval.
Any questions? Motion? Carpenter, second.
Second.
Archer?
Carpenter?
Yes.
Archer?
Yes.
McElroy?
Yes.
Stottsberry?
Yes.
McKee?
Yes.
Boy. That was phenomenal.
I was waiting for you.
I have a
It's
series of
coming.
a series of financial reports for your review and approval. And I did want to point out that Justin mentioned earlier the grant, the Ohio Farm Bureau grant, and that is one of the, that's the modification on our, I had to get to the bottom of the screen, sorry about that. On our estimated receipts, that 45,000 right there, that's the grant he spoke of earlier, and then also the corresponding appropriations for 45,000. So we got our first installment on that. It was 22,500, and then they're sending the second and third in increments sometime later in the year. But we did get our first check on that. Everything else, the cafeteria reports are there, the disbursement summary, financial summary. Anybody have any questions?
Questions, comments?
Motion.
Motion, Stottsberry, second. Carpenter?
Stottsberry,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
whoops. Archer,
Yes.
McElroy,
Yes.
and McKee.
Yes.
Okay, next I have our 5-year forecast for your approval. I attached it in 2 separate documents. This is the just financial only document. It doesn't have all the notes and corresponding pages. So, our traditional forecast is 3 years of actual and 5 years of projected. So,
You'll print off the notes every year.
yeah, well, I feel like the notes give you more. Like, this is a nice snapshot, and this is what has to be physically filed.
Yep.
But I feel like the notes give you so much more information and knowledge about what's happening. And as always, we always like to point out this line 6.010, because what that does is it takes your revenue for the year and compares to your expenses for the year. And so you know immediately if you're spending more than you're receiving. I'm not going to talk about the past because we already know what happened in those first 2 financial years, because of our $4 million transfers to the PI fund, which we felt very passionately about being able to keep that up. So that's why those 2 red amounts happened. And then going out, we are still projecting, if you see in this column right here, we're still projecting to do our $4 million transfers plus a transfer to the food service fund and transfers to the athletic fund. So that's what makes up the rest of that, in case anyone was wondering. And then, so we take a look at what's happening at revenue versus expenditures, and we also take into consideration what's happening here at line 7.02, which is our cash balance, which is showing very good growth. And I have some ideas maybe if we can talk about later in executive session that I wanted to just plant a seed and see what everybody might think about that. But so there's the numbers. And having said that, then I'll go back over and open up the footnotes, which it's kind of set up just like it has been in the past. Each line of the financial statement, we have a summary page, and then each line of the financial statements has a page that goes into some details about that section. This is a forecast overall, with the black being revenue, the gray being expenses, and the gold line being our cash balance. I always kind of put some words in there to explain the numbers, but I think the graphs give you a great visual, and then the words are kind of just backing it up. But okay, so then the next page, that's financial statement overall, and this is revenue overall. So I really like this bar chart on the left because it takes what happened in actual 2020 and takes and I'm giving you a picture of what we're projecting to happen in 2025, our furthest year out on the forecast, which is the hardest year to predict because it's the furthest year out, and lines them up side by side here and says, you know, what's the major portions of your revenue. We see what's happening to real estate. We see what's happening to public utility, the real estate being the blue, public utility being the gold color there. And then state funding remaining sort of the same, but decreasing just a little bit. Everything else is kind of squished into that greenish colored area up at the top. But I like that because it's putting them right there side by side. Here's what actually happened. Here's what we think is going to happen. Now you could look at that as a board member and say, is there anything out of, is there anything unusual about what she's predicting here? And if there was, then I ought to be able to answer those questions for you. And so what I can say is we all know what's happening with public utility, personal property. And then the graph here on the right kind of gives you more historical, going back to 2016 and goes year by year up to 2025. Again, the ups and downs, we know what was happening with public utility, personal property, and real estate. And what do we see going out for the future? Well, we see it's a little bit high. We're hoping to get that reinstatement of what we lost last year because of the state budget cuts, and some of those things are still out there yet to be determined for sure, concrete. But we're predicting what we know today, and it's slightly declining, but nothing terribly alarming. And then here, just kind of putting the numbers in perspective, a brief narrative about it. And then we go into the next page is our line by line. So real estate will be on one page, public utility, personal property will be on the next page. So this is real estate. Again, that same bar here on the left showing you what actually happened in 2020, what we think is going to happen in 2025. And we're taking into consideration those decreases. Some statistics there for you at the bottom. Next page, kind of the opposite scenario, where public utility personal property, we see where what actually happened in 2020, and we see that growth being predicted into as far out as 2025. Knowing, taking into consideration, we are taking depreciation into consideration. You know, we have a 2 to 3% depreciation on those pipelines that are being taken into consideration every year, and that's why that's stacked off. It kind of goes down a little bit in the future. We've talked about what that full voted rate means and why that's so impactful for us on public utility personal property. We don't have an income tax, so we skip the next page. And this is where state revenue, nothing alarming there on the left. It is a slight decrease, and we don't like to see decreases, but knowing what we know today, I'm not terribly alarmed. This is a nice little snapshot of our, on my screen it looks pink, but up there it looks yellow, of what has happened with our ADM. Restricted takes into consideration our money from career tech money. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. The career tech money we get from the state is restricted, so that's built into here. And also the economically disadvantaged funds, or portion of our state funds, I should say. Property tax allocation, that's the money that takes the place of those credits and reductions that taxpayers get on their taxes for homestead and rollback. And then the state pays us. We see that kind of, it has spiked in the past. It's kind of steady now. So it's nice to see these bars going straight across. And then everything else, except for transfers, is kind of lumped into this other category. And that's where interest is, which I'm expecting to take a big cut on our interest revenue now, just because of the way the economy is situated. So even though our cash balance is increasing and you would think we would have more money to be investing, the interest rates are lower now. So we're not going to be, when I go to renew a CD that I was able to get for, 1 point anything, 1.3, 1.9, 2.1, today we're going in and renewing those 2-year CDs, and you're lucky to get a point something, 0.3, 0.5, if you're very lucky, very, very lucky. So we have a lot of funds that are just sitting in money market mutual right now because, frankly, you're earning just as good of an interest rate as you would by locking it into a CD. So exactly. Other financing sources is where we would put any transfers in, other financing sources. This is just kind of like those miscellaneous things. It's a very, very small category on our financial statements. And then we go into a summary of our expenditure category. And again, I like this bar here on the left, kind of takes puts everything in perspective. What are your largest categories? Well, we know going in, we always talk about salaries and benefits taking up a large percentage. And we know that historically we have been approving 3% increases and that benefits increase accordingly, because a lot of those benefits are based on what the salary was, retirement, Medicare, et cetera. We're also building into there the cost of what we think our insurance rates are going to go up. Oh, and taking into consideration normal step increases as well, and degree level changes in the case of the Certified Teachers Association folks. So here's personnel overall, where we've been since 2016, where we anticipate being in 2025. Same thing with benefits, steady increase. Purchase services, we had a large increase. If you're looking at 2016 and going up, and you might ask, well, why would purchase services go up that much, Trenda? Remember, this is when we put our mowing contract into place and some other heating and air conditioning, like those are all considered purchased services that we, instead of doing that ourselves, we purchase that service from someone else. So, but going forward, you see, once we got up and figured out where we was going to be on that and found a good spot, now we're kind of steady going forward and only incremental increases from that point forward. Supplies and materials, kind of the same thing. We had a few spikes here and there, but we see a slow, steady increase going forward. Capital outlay, there's a couple unusual spikes that might call your attention here. You might wonder why 2017, 2018, why did that go so big and then come back down and steady out? And the reason is because, we were just beginning to get some of our public utility, personal property tax money back then. We hadn't really built up our PI fund yet. So those parking lot improvements that we did, we actually paid for out of the general fund as opposed to from the PI fund. Now we try to take the perspective that most of our large projects are able to happen out of the PI fund, which logically that's where they should occur from. But back at the time, we were still getting that built up, and so we incurred those expenses out of our general fund as opposed to the PI fund. And so now we have a pretty good. Some of those minor spikes you see up and down here are this year we're going to buy 2 buses, and we might buy 3 buses this year, and next year go back to 2 buses and buy a van. And one year Chris tells me, well, we're eventually going to have to replace one of our vans. So we have a schedule out there for how that's going to kind of balance out in the end, but not terrible spikes, I guess is what my point is. And then intergovernmental and debt, this, for someone who was maybe looking at this for the first time, might wonder what was going on in 2020, but we know what we did. We paid off those callable bonds and decreased all that debt that we could. And we knew we had 3 more payments coming out. The one that happened in 2020, we got one in 21, one in 22, and then we're going in the future, we won't have that anymore. Other objects kind of takes into a lot of things into consideration, but one thing is the, our ESC contract, our county auditor and treasurer fees, audit expenses. Those are the big items that hit this category, and especially those auditor and treasurer fees. That's related to how much we collect, because they collect that for us. So they get a percentage of what they collect on our behalf. So obviously the fee amount has went up too. ESC contracts include, we've had a lot more am I saying that word right, Dan? Paraprofessionals, the aides, and then and not just for regular school age, but think about preschool, because we brought on preschool. So that's built into there as well. So we have had some increases in this category that they are not unexplainable. And then kind of steady going forward, which is what we like to see. Other financing uses takes that $4 million transfer that we talked about earlier into consideration, and then plus some of what we expect for food service and athletics.
We expect that to continue.
Yeah. I think especially with ticket, even though we did what we could with on the athletic side of things, we did what we could with the scenario we were given. The electronic tickets, we did have some revenue. So, I mean, it's not a terrible picture, but it's probably going to be, we're probably going to have to transfer more than what we did last year, for sure.
Our capacity is 15%. So you've got an 85% loss of ticket revenue right off the bat.
So yeah, even though we had some, and it definitely could have been worse, but I'm just putting that out there so you won't be shocked when we come back in March and say, well, we got to do this transfer, and then probably again in June we'll have to say, because we won't be able to close the fiscal year in the negative for the athletic fund. So, and then I don't anticipate anything too different for food service either, honestly. Again, we've done what we could. We've collected on some grants. We've maximized everything we could on federal and state funding for the lunches. And we knew what we needed to do for children. So we had to feed kids. And so we did it. And then there's just one more snapshot of the forecast. This one, in order to make it fit on one page, I kind of took the other two, the first 2 years of actual activity and cut them off. So, but does anybody have any questions?
Pretty impressive.
On page 3, no, kidding.
Page 3?
I'm kidding.
Wait, I think that's the index.
That's hilarious.
Now you know why it didn't make any sense.
I was about to be impressed.
I would say this from my perspective, and I've praised Trenda before. And I guess the one thing you can't help sometimes but get a little irritated at comments that you hear of people who make assumptions with no idea. But I mean, I spent 2 hours on the phone today fighting over a bill for $1,700. Like, we don't operate like we have a cash balance of $33 million, despite what people think that they know. And I'm going to share some stuff later that would tell you that, and I'll give you the short story. Our addition of 5 preschool classrooms over a 13-year period, we're profiting almost $40,000 a year, over $40,000 a year on that investment. So you think about it, what our open enrollment in preschool has brought to us has allowed us to provide greater access for our own kids. Yet even my own peers say, well, you can afford to do that. Dude, it's profitable. It's not just an expense going out the door. And there's just so many of those. And Trenda obviously stays to tune on the smallest of these. We're not going to let that happen. And when people say, I get very offended, well, you can't sustain this. Well, yes, I can. Just watch me. I've got evidence that says it's not, there's a reason that cash balance continues to grow, yet some of these things dwindle down. We've made some great investments in programming, and the number one source of revenue is kids. Kids coming to us, our own kids coming back to us, more people choosing us is, it's to the tune of almost $4 million over an 8-year period to the positive. So you're starting to see that, but I'm just trying a great job as usual, and thank you for keeping us on this course.
I have an idea for next month.
Okay.
The month after.
Okay.
Maybe like a quarterly analysis
Okay,
on purchase services.
gotcha.
That's a common conversation I have with some people in the community. And I have numbers and reasons to support why we did what we did and continue to do. But I feel like you would be more capable of thinking out more concrete.
So the one thing that I think would be so simple, this is a 5-minute answer. Take the general cost of a maintenance person, salaries and benefits, and compare it to the lawn mowing cost. Because guess what? If I continue to mow my own lawn, I'm going to have to hire an HVAC person.
Because you
It's-
took
it's
away from
truly
the
that
one
simple.
service to give to the other service.
Right. I mean, that is really that simple. You take, right now I'm not paying insurance, I'm not buying equipment, I'm not paying for fuel for my equipment. I can go on and on and on. It's another one of those categories where we're spending a little and we're actually saving more than we're spending. The addition of HVAC in our buildings is not just put it in and then it didn't change anything. And you know that, Constance, definitely from your job. It's true that I get asked that question all the time. If I had $1 for every question I'm asked, that's number one. It's about who's mowing the grass and how much that costs.
But I
Okay,
think even more so with that information that we know simple basics
Yeah.
through that. But also I think it helps us for 8, 12 years from now, continuing to support those decisions. And
absolutely.
also build a better understanding of maybe what equipment we do or do not.
Perfect. Any other questions for Trenda? Kevin, you good? Stuffbury, you awake?
Keep the bar.
No, I'm good. I just can't find the damn microphone.
Wait, do you want me to redo my presentation?
No, I heard it all. It looks great.
All right, I'll accept the motion.
Motion.
Archer, second.
Second.
Lori.
Okay, so Archer Archer,
Yes.
McElroy?
Yes.
Carpenter?
Yes.
Stotsberry?
Yes.
McKee?
Yes. Thank you, Trenda. And man, you're up.
Okay. A few business matters, a lot of them are finalizing the policies. We had a first reading of the last time. Just a reminder that these are required policies. As to keep current with our policy changes on a quarterly basis. You also see their annual membership to the Ohio School Boards Association, as well as the OSBA Legal Assistance Fund. You can also see that we put that the Board of Educational organizational meeting on January 9th, with the regular meeting to follow. Are you good with that, or do you want another day?
Saturday.
Yeah, I think what that is, the date that carried over from last year. I was looking, so we have to have the organizational meeting on or before January 15th. So I was going to propose, what does Thursday, January 14th look like? We just do them both? That work for everybody?
Thursday, 14th.
Yes, and we can just do the organizational meeting at 6. And the,
Better for you, isn't it, Trenda?
Yeah.
Kevin, you good with the 14th of January?
Works for me.
Anybody else? Yeah, and I apologize, that date was a carryover from last year, so.
It is 6 p.m. still a workable time for everyone?
So you count,
Yep, good.
6 o'clock on the 14th. And that's it for business matters. Stockberry, second?
Yeah.
Who was that?
John Lord.
Stottsberry?
Yes.
McElroy?
Yes.
Archer?
Yes.
Carpenter?
Yes.
McKee?
Yes. Item 5.2 is personnel matters. Obviously, once upon a time, we had employed Kelly Nichols, 7th for basketball coach. You see her resignation there. Appreciate her time and that's a nice letter of resignation, kind of telling you why, and we hope everything's going well for her and her family. And then you also see 2 job descriptions, one for the technology assistant or the information technology help desk associate, as well as the school nurse aide. And I think that we had some dialogue as to why we needed that description for the nurse aide, which is Kayla, and she's been with us and done a fantastic job. We're not changing her capacity or anything. We're just defining it as it should be. Any other questions? What we've done. Motion? Carpenter, second.
Second.
Or
Carpenter?
Yes.
Archer?
Yes.
McElroy?
Yes.
Stottsberry?
Yes.
McKee?
yes. And item 5.3, we need a motion and a second to approve Ed McKee, our board president, to act as president pro tem to preside initially at the January organizational meeting until a new president is elected.
Motion.
Archer, second.
Stott-
McElroy.
Archer?
Yes.
McElroy? Carpenter?
Yes.
Stottsberry?
Yes.
McKee?
Yes. That's all I have. All right, legislative information? Anybody's? I mean, there's a lot going on. The big thing is the budget bill proposal that's strongly endorsed by the majority of probably superintendents in the state. It's through the Senate, and but it seems like it's going to stall, and nothing's going to happen with that before January. So, more information forthcoming. We also haven't had any updates lately on some of the extension of our conservation funds. So many of those things expire at the end of December, and there's a lot of speculation as to what may continue in the future. I find it interesting that on a state level, our governor shares that we have lots of CARES money still available. Yeah, it's like, it's just kind of crazy, but anxious to see which, if any of those things might be reinstated. But there's a lot happening, but I don't figure anything's going to come to any head until after the first of the year.
I did call Will Schwartz and Kate Johnson with the OSBA about that valuation. I thought you did talk to you about that. I thought it's oil and gas trying to get the valuation of property. It was the valuation like local businesses that have been, hit hard by the case to get their valuation lower so the taxes would be so high. But I know we've been fighting out that we still have problems in the school here. Continue to fight to change the valuation of property for the gas property. Yeah, I talked to them and they said, hey, thanks for calling, appreciate that, this is what it is.
Obviously, there's some legislation regarding school vouchers that didn't really, it doesn't impact us significantly, but certainly on a statewide basis, it did not go in favor of public schools. certainly erred on the side of, charter schools, so that's going to continue to be an issue, but that's basically it right now.
Good. Financial, Trina?
So I had some information in there from last year, so I have to apologize for that. The board member paycheck, it said the 20th of 2019. It'll actually be because of the way our payrolls fall. Normal payroll would have been on Friday the 1st, which is a holiday. The direct deposits are going to happen on the 31st, which is Thursday this time. So that will be unusual for everyone, but it will happen on Thursday the 31st. And you'll get an email, direct deposit notice.
And under my information, can you pull that up? And there's the STEM logo. We'll start with that.
Oh, here it is. Okay, got it. Sorry.
So you probably saw this on our sign. It's kind of the first place that was unveiled, and Guy asked why the tractor. And obviously, that's our movement toward not just STEM but STEAM. So S is for science, T is for technology, E is for engineering, A for us is art and ag, and M is actually not just for math, but we also add manufacturing and medical. And I think you're going to hear some big news about some medical space that'll be coming to our area. Lots of good conversation. We also, Justin didn't mention it, but we're also moving forward, likely be offering a medical assistance program here on campus next year. And that was at a request of Marietta Memorial Hospital, who did not necessarily care for their current provider. But we stepped up and said, hey, well, we're in.
Imagine that.
We don't have any clue where we're going to put it. So we're going to figure that out, but we're going to make it happen. So, it's really hard. It's really hard to put something together like this, but I think it's important that I take 2 minutes and kind of explain why we landed where we did. Because when we first introduced STEM to our district, there was all kinds of connotations and speculation, oh, what about literacy and what about this? And STEM's a way to engage kids. It's not just a math or science project. It's a way to get kids to think and problem solve. But one of the things we want to make sure, it doesn't take away what we're all about instructionally. So if you look at the core is to create Zeps who are future ready. That's our goal. We're going to focus on growth, access, equity, the fact that we should provide opportunities for all kids, not just some kids, and STEM. If STEM's going to be 90+% of the future workforce, we can't only prepare a portion of our kids for STEM careers. So we're aligned very heavily there. These are the different elements of STEM. But on the outer circle, nothing's ever going to take the place of what do we want kids to know, how do we know if they know it, and how do we respond to those who do or don't. That's still our instructional cycle. It's still going to guide everything that we do. We sometimes describe STEM as strategies that engage the mind. So it's getting to think critically, not just regurgitate and memorize information. One of the greatest challenges that we're having right now with some of the online learning is assessments and the fact that we believe it's easier for kids to cheat. Well, how about we thinking about assessing differently? How can we do more of a performance-based assessment? So it's a complete paradigm shift. And I know that we talked earlier, we mentioned, I just wish we could give it the credit it's due, the changes that are taking place here that don't necessarily meet the eye of folks that aren't educators. It's a 180-degree shift, and we're trying to fix it while we're flying, but I think that logo kind of captures what we're all about, and you'll start to see that a little bit more in the future. So that's good. And there's a spreadsheet on the second item. Kind of goes back to the finances. You can pull that up, Trenda. That was the link that was there. And excuse the informality of the document. I'm going to add to it because it was actually a day before I had a chance to kind of get back to it. But we've all talked about it at different times. And Constance and I have probably talked about it more specifically. And when I shared this with the admin team, a portion of it some time ago, I've tried to put some notes down there on how I came about these numbers. Trenda has been with the 5-year forecast. These are generalizations, but we're always talking about, what's the value of this? What's the value of bringing kids back? And I think one of the things that Constance's question just a while ago is a great example of what we need to do better. But it's hard sometimes. We don't consider it because I typically trust people. And I trust that, when somebody tells me something, well, that's their job. They know what they're doing. And what I have to understand is, for some reason, whatever the reason is, people seem to think that they know what we don't know. And we don't always provide the information. So this was my attempt to show you some information based on revenues in. And you can see that we have number of full-time CCP, the years down one side, the number of students that attended Mid-East, the number of students open enrolled in, the number of students open enrolled out, annual net savings or added revenue. Okay, so if you see in 2013, that was our baseline year. So we saw improvement in 14. Does it help if I go up there?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go without my mask for a moment. So this was the baseline year. We saw no savings. This is just reporting. We had 95 open enrolled out. We had 141 coming in. We had 73 at Mid-East. We had 18 people who left campus for full-time college credit plus. Okay, so in 2014, we started to see and started to really monitor on what was happening with our enrollment. So you see, number of full-time CCP that year was 11 compared to 18. That's I would consider that a +7 for us. We saw a +6 in students coming back to us from Mid-East. We saw our open enrollment in climb by 7, and we saw our out decline by 4. That equates to about $172,250 of additional revenue to our district through those calculations. Down here, I tell you where I got the numbers. I'm looking at roughly $6,500 for a student on open enrollment calculation, and I take 75% of that funding, $4,875 is what a kid coming back to us from Mid-East. And I just worked through those numbers all the way down.
But
So,
I got a question. So does those numbers reflect graduations? Or how do you figure that in there?
No, I did not set that on graduation. I'm just looking at just enrollment numbers, Kevin.
Well, I just didn't like that class in 2014 was just less kids because we had more graduating the year before than.
I see what the confusion is. It's not class of 14 though, Kevin. He's saying in the year 15.
Year, but
yeah,
those kids that graduated in 13, you would have had maybe more total kids on campus than you did in 14.
Well, we can add that. We can add that, absolutely. Yep, good point. So if you look at that difference, times it by 7, because we realized that savings for that addition through today. I mean, that savings didn't go away, and we continue to compound that. That comes out to about $3,042 over an 8-year period. That's where the numbers came from. Then I also added preschool, and let me give you a little preschool information. We did have one classroom, and a classroom cost us between teacher and aide, it's about $80,000 a year, roughly. That's an average. I can tell you that currently we have 6 teachers in preschool. Their salaries average from $37,000 to $59,000. We have 8 aides. Their salaries range from $17,000 to $38,000. So if you take the average, one teacher, one aide, it comes up to be about $80,000 a year. So 4 additional classrooms, or 5 additional classrooms, is roughly about $400,000 annually with our increase in pre-K. Okay, so that's where typically people say, oh, we can't afford to add access to pre-K. It's too expensive. So we've upped the ante. We've increased our expenditures, $400,000 in preschool. Okay, but we also have
Does that include feeding them?
that's total cost that I used off the ESC.
Off the ESC billing, what they do.
So now you take in the fact you have 72 open enrollment students in preschool. And so it was a big dilemma because we had a policy that you don't take open enrollment in preschool. And I made this, and actually the ESC says you're not going to take open enrollment. Yes, we are. And if I don't, I'm going to go do it on my own. Okay, so I can just tell you that 72 students open enrollment, we don't get anything for them during the time they're in preschool. We don't get any funding for that. However, if we keep them 13 years beyond, okay, that turns out to be a revenue over 13 years. That's an additional expense of $5.2 million and a return of $6.1 million, keeping those kids for 13 years. Okay, well, they're funding additional access also for our native district children. So that increase not only didn't cost us any money, it's going to net us revenue.
And they did have to pay some tuition.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's not.
Yeah, but it's probably more positive than that, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I just think that's really important because everybody in the community wants to fixate on what they see being spent, but they don't, for some reason, trust what we know behind the scenes. And I get it; it would be hard, but we just don't decide to go out and start spending 400-some thousand additional dollars and wonder how we're going to sustain it. So I would say this in front of the whole community. This is where my skin kind of crawls and I get a little fired up because we don't go into things blindly. You know, and if I had one more person from other districts say, oh, well, you can't sustain it. I think our forecast suggests that we're more than sustaining it.
Minus, we may not know where we're gonna put them, but.
Oh, well, listen.
We're good.
It doesn't come without problem. But, you know, I just find this is huge. I mean, this is really, I mean, it's fantastic.
And going back to the public, 2 years ago, I don't know about anybody else, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I used to get a lot of questions about the preschool and stuff. Honest to God, I think the public pretty much trusts us that they know what we're doing. That's just my feeling now because honestly, Dan, I hear nothing but positive.
Yeah. And again, we all have those hot buttons. That's just one of my hot buttons because, you know, everybody says, oh, you spend, right? Yeah, oh yeah. But look, you know, when people tell me, hey, they visit our school, how you doing this? Well, you need to invest $20,000. Oh, we can't spend $20,000. I can tell you, we can look between 14 and 15 along those areas. A lot of that had to do with the $20,000 investment in sharing college credit plus courses here on this campus. And look at those numbers on a $20,000 investment.
Pretty good.
And I would say to our folks, you can't afford not to.
Well, the biggest thing, like you said before, the key word I hear is investment. To the naysayers, they hear $20,000.
Yeah.
Spent, not followed with investment.
And again, I really, I mean, I always dig into tremendous forecasts, and like you, I really like it. This one really resonated with me because, you know, you can hear her say that these things are declining, but you look at our cash balance and you know by the $4 million transfer, we continue to grow. You know, last year, if you pull up that forecast, there was a couple of years we were projecting some deficit spending. Those are gone. So, you know, the quality, and she probably doesn't like this description, the quality of her oversight and guidance with what we're trying to do on the programming side really works beautifully. And we're not going to let anybody get into a situation that they can't sustain. I'm not going to walk away. Trenda's not going to walk away 5-10 years from now and leave people in a deficit and the place crumbling. Right? So this is just one example. And this is a result of a lot of people doing things different. This didn't happen because of an admin team. It didn't happen because of anybody here. This happened because a lot of people in these classrooms embraced doing things differently, looking at our students as our customers. And that was a huge shift that kind of goes unnoticed. What they're doing this year in remote learning is another example of that. They're the only district around doing the things that they're doing. And I'm going to say this has really came back to bite me. Our decision to back off some of those 2-hour delays has really stressed our folks. I'm just going to say this, but I wish I'd have fought harder for it, because every district around us sees how important it is to have a whole day off a week, or when they go to and for us not even to have that time once a month has been a huge stressor. I can tell you in my previous district, I had 2-hour delays every month in a non-COVID world. It was that critical to retool how we're doing. It's kind of like, if you go to the manufacturing plant and they're going to automate this production line, and they shut the line down. And we're retooling the line, and it's still firing out stuff. And our folks have to have time. We have to have. So for our staff to be able to do what they've done, this is a sign pre-COVID, and we continue to see numbers. A lot of this is our own kids choosing us. The other thing that you see now, and it doesn't show up in a financial number, we're providing that access for all of our kids to future-ready preparedness. And so by bringing it here, everyone can access it. So we talk about the Career Center. Guess what you have to have to go to the Career Center? Well, first you have to have your own ride to school. So you've already alienated a population that can go to the Career Center because of what time in which the bus needs to be. So not even career tech education was available. There was no equity whatsoever. And we've kind of taken that, the haves and the have-nots away, and we're trying to open up doors for every kid. And I think it's paying some great dividends. So I'm going to clean that up, but I think you get the gist of it. And I think, I know at least Constance and I have had a lot of conversations about that. And I kind of had a hunch, I kind of had a feeling, but we start putting some numbers to it. Again, are they 100% accurate to the penny? No, I just told you where my figures came from and how we were looking at it. I think it's very accurate for the purpose that we're using. So we are seeing a return. Business Advisory Council. Wow. I don't know. Were you on that?
I wasn't on that call. I was on another meeting. Did we get notes?
Now, I was on it for a minute, and then I lost it right at that.
So we had 29 people attend,
Awesome.
including people from Appalachian Regional Commission, Buckeye Hills, Governor's Office. Brad represented the commissioners, and we've got some other stuff coming after the first of the year. It's just going to be incredible. He and I had a phone conversation today, and I think, that's going to be a good thing. We have a lot of those grants.
Did I take notes? Do you know?
Yes, we do. We have.
Okay, cool.
She'll send those out.
Okay.
We're going to try to formalize that committee a little bit more as regards to some, exposure on our website, and we're doing some things there. We're also being considered for a statewide award for Business Advisory Council, but that's really what that Future Ready ZEP's all about. It's trying to appeal to the community need and preparing our kids for success right here in their backyard if we can. So the last thing on the Green Acres Farm update, we continue to move. We've got some survey results back, and hopefully after the first of the year, we're going to be able to be on schedule with that. And we're still planning today to have phase 1 ready to go in the fall of 2021. So the Farm Bureau and Energy Optimizers logo is on our sign for their sponsorship. So that's about, when you add those two together, that's about $115,000. So obviously we have room for more spaces, and we have room for more sponsors. We're being asked a lot of questions about what it takes to be there. So we look forward to kind of growing that.
Is there any formality as far as the documentation behind what it takes to be a sponsor? I'd like to send that to our corporate office.
I will get you that.
Okay.
So one of the things that we've discussed just informally, we were talking about probably minimum of a $10,000 donation.
Okay.
The period of time in which your logo would stay there is something that we really haven't concluded. Typically, I've done 5-year agreements, but do you guys have any thoughts? So that's kind of where we're at.
Or we could build something where you have
Sure.
levels, I don't
Yeah.
know. Goals, I don't know.
Exactly.
But Nick is also wanting to touch base with you, and he actually came from a part of Marathon where they do partnerships such as this, and they work on
Great.
building partnerships with schools and things of that nature. So he's going to be a great resource.
Oh, he's a great young man.
Yeah.
His, now my son works with, his sister, who was also a former student of mine.
Oh, really?
She's the strength coach at Upper Arlington High School. Dylan's now at Granville, so they were able to reconnect, and
That's crazy.
it's great, yeah.
Yeah, no, he's good.
That's all I have, other than I got a few items in executive session.
We'll now accept the motion to enter into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official,